So, for my final project, I decided to cover the topic of gay athletes in professional sports. And so, the idea of gay athletes is becoming a more and more mainstream and accepted thing now in the world of professional sports. This, however, was not always the case. Many times in the past, players such as Glenn Burke, who was offered $75,000 to marry a woman because the owners of the Los Angeles Dodgers feared that this would affect their appearance to the media. As I stated before, though, these trends of trying to close their homosexuality and fear of brand damage are coming to a steady decline and are actually being welcomed in today's world. For the duration of this video, I'll be reviewing the outings of gay athletes and analyze how the media treated and portrayed them. I will also be analyzing the difference in how the media treated these gay athletes and players over time, how society has been able to evolve and embrace more progressive values, especially in sports. The chapters in our textbook I referred to were 11, 13, and 14 for this project. So some early gay athletes I would like to cover, one of them being the most famous woman in tennis, Billie Jean King, who was outed in 1981. Her publicist told her to deny the accusations in fear that it would take an effect on her branding possibilities. Athletes coming out as gay as gay at the time was a very taboo thing and could result in negative backlash from the media and the public sphere. King told NBC News, "I said I'm going to do it. This is important to me to tell the truth. The one thing my mother always said, to thine self be true." King also went on in an interview in 2012 about how she lost all of her endorsements overnight. This was a direct result of her being outed as gay.
I was outed, and I would never out anybody on anything. And I'd grown up in a homophobic environment. So it was really something, this is the biggest struggle I've ever had in my life. And I told my PR person, and I told my lawyer, I want to have a press conference, and I'm going to tell the truth. And they said, you cannot do that. No one's ever done that. I said, I don't care what people have done before me. I am telling you, I have to tell the truth. I told the truth at this press conference. Of course, you could have heard a pin drop, because I said, yes, I did have an affair with Marilyn Barnett. And they went, oh! You'd hear me go, oh! Like that. The truth always sets you free, eventually. I did lose all my money overnight in 24 hours. Every single endorsement I had, I lost it all in 24 hours. But it's okay. It's like you just start over. But I would never out somebody. Oh my God, that's just horrible. Not just with anything. Everyone has to decide when they're ready to do something, each human being.
It is apparent such cases such as Billie Jean King were not as accepted in the early 80s as it would be today. Another professional athlete who endured the same struggles as Billie Jean King was a Major League Baseball player who went by the name of Glenn Burke. Glenn Burke was believed to be forced out of baseball due to his sexuality at age 27. It all seemed to start when he was playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1975, where he was openly gay. As I stated previously, the Dodgers attempted to pay him $75,000 to marry a woman. The uptight LA Dodgers were fed up with Burke and traded him to the Oakland A's, where he did not receive any better treatment. The manager of the A's called Burke a faggot to his face and later sent him to the minor leagues. Being an openly black, gay man essentially ruined a man's career, and there was nothing he could do about it. According to OaklandSide.org, Burke's life began to take a rapid decline. Being a gay man in the 80s, he had no job or home. He began to smoke crack, which resulted in him serving 16 months in prison. His friends were dying around him as AIDS was on the rise in the homosexual community. He later died of AIDS himself in 1995. Who knows how his career would have turned out if Major League Baseball would not have ruined his career based on his sexuality. The idea of homosexuality in the world of sports has since been on a steady rise to being accepted and welcomed, however. With inclusion and diversity in our professional athletics, it shows that we are taking steps in the right direction to end discrimination for sexuality. Other than Glenn Burke, the only other professional baseball player to come out as openly gay is Billy Beane. Beane, however, endured a much different experience with his coming out when he did so in the year 1999. According to BillyBeane.com, being a closeted gay man in an openly anti-gay baseball league caused much distress for Beane and his time spent in the majors. Beane did not want to have to choose between a life of hiding his sexuality or playing the game he loved. These uncertain times left Bean no choice but to step away from professional baseball in what some say was the prime of his career. When he came out, however, he was met with acceptance and immediately caught the attention of national media outlets. He found himself on the cover of the New York Times and was on CNN. He was later interviewed by Diane Sawyer on the nationally televised show 2020. Bean even wrote a book about his experience called Going the Other Way, which ended up becoming a national bestseller. He is seen now as one of the biggest role models in sports and the homosexual community. The MLB has attempted to change the narrative of their past wrongdoings and discrimination towards the homosexual community by appointing Billy Bean as the MLB's first ambassador for inclusion in 2014. Bean later made a video and posted it to YouTube talking about the other gay man who had come out in the MLB, Glenn Burke. He was saddened by the way he was treated. He then promised to continue Burke's legacy as he continued to fight for inclusion and equality for everyone.
Dear Glenn, I was thinking of you this week. Working at Major League Baseball makes it inevitable that you weave in and out of my thoughts. We're forever linked as we are the only two Major League Baseball players in the 151-year history of MLB to ever publicly disclose that we are gay. It hurts that I never got to meet you. Your career ended long before mine began, and our paths never intersected. But I do know many people that played alongside you. And because of you, I've had the good fortune to become friends with your amazing sister, Lutha. On June 17th, 2015, the Oakland A's celebrated your career at their first ever LGBT Pride game. And before the game, your niece, Alice Rose, introduced me to almost 60 members of your extended family. It was easy to see the impact you made on every one of them, which had nothing to do with your baseball talent and everything to do with the kind of person you were. I stood right next to your brother Sidney as he threw out the first pitch. And then I got to watch the Oakland A's donate over $23,000 to AIDS Project East Bay in your name. I know how much this moment would have meant to you, and it broke my heart that you weren't there to see it. Coming full circle has helped me let go of much of my own personal disappointment, and I know that you were robbed of that opportunity. And sadly, this week will mark 25 years since you passed away, much too young. I often think about how my life and career might have been different had we known each other, and I believe we would have become great friends. We lived the same isolation and fears while playing a sport we loved, and doing so during a time that was much different and much less accepting. I can only imagine what it would have been like to listen to your stories of baseball in the 1970s and how many mistakes your advice would have saved me from making. I would have told you about one season in winter ball in Venezuela while on a long bus ride, one of your former teammates talked about the greatest athlete he ever saw in the minor leagues, some guy named Glenn Burke. There was no mention of your sexual orientation, only that you would have easily played in the NBA or the NFL. And most importantly, I wish I could sit down with you and tell you about all the ways that baseball has changed for the better and how we would have never arrived at where we are without you. In 2014 at the MLB All-Star Game in Minneapolis, I was announced as MLB's very first ambassador for inclusion. As the commissioner announced my name, Lutha was sitting right next to me holding my hand as I got up to address the media on live television. Since that time, I've watched baseball transform itself into a leader for LGBTQ education and acceptance. Our former team, the Los Angeles Dodgers, continue to blaze a progressive trail of acceptance for all fans and professional sports. Since my return to baseball, I personally worked with every MLB club to broaden education that fosters an inclusive and accepting clubhouse, workplace, and fan experience in all our MLB ballparks. Over the past 3 years, MLB's Shred Hate Bullying Prevention Education Program has reached almost 200,000 students across 13 MLB cities, and even hundreds of thousands more online, with many of our most dynamic superstars supporting that message and proclaiming that everyone is a part of this team. Glenn, if we were able to talk, there's so many things I would want to share with you. Most importantly, I would want to say thank you. In my heart, we are family, and I will continue to honor your memory in my fight for equality and acceptance for everybody. Rest in peace.
As time goes on, more and more athletes are coming out as gay. The NFL has seen a rise in players coming out about their sexuality. Media coverage of these outings were very positive. The first active player to come out as gay was Carl Nassib. Nassib came out in June of 2021, saying he had agonized over this moment for the past 15 years, waiting for the moment he finally felt comfortable sharing his sexuality. Nassib took to social media, specifically Instagram, to share his video with his followers and for the world to see. He specifically mentioned that he was not doing this for attention, and that he feels that representation in the community is crucial. According to the New York Times, the historic moment is a huge turning point for the NFL, as it makes Nassib the first active player in the league to come out as gay in the 101 years of the NFL history. He thanks his teammates and his coaches for being supportive of him in his decision to openly share his sexuality to the world. The NFL shared a tweet about Nassib and his decision to donate $100,000 to the Trevor Project, a nonprofit organization that helps in the prevention of suicides among the LGBTQ community. The NFL Commissioner, Robert Goodell, made a statement saying he was proud of Nassib and that the representation in the league was important.
Just want to take a quick moment to say that I'm gay. I've been meaning to do this for a while now, but I finally feel comfortable enough to get it off my chest. I really have the best life. I got the best family, friends, and job a guy could ask for. I'm a pretty private person, so I hope you guys know that I'm really not doing this for attention. I just think that representation and visibility are so important. I actually hope that one day videos like this and the whole coming out process are just not necessary.
Now, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said in a statement today, quote, "The NFL family is proud of Carl for courageously sharing his truth today, representing matters." Look at this. He says, "We share his hope that someday soon statements like this will no longer be newsworthy as we march towards equality for the LGBTQ plus community." We wish Carl the best of luck for the upcoming season. Nassib is also announcing that he's going to donate $100,000 to the Trevor Trevor Project, I should say. That's a nonprofit that focuses on suicide prevention programs for LGBTQ plus youth.
When we compare media coverage like this to that of players in the past, such as Billie Jean King and Glenn Burke, we see a totally different approach by others than in the past. Goodell is receiving good publicity from his action and is not being put down or being seen as an outsider. It is obvious that in the few decades, the acceptance of openly gay players in professional sports is much higher than it was initially. This change will hopefully inspire others dealing with the fear of becoming an open in their sexuality and hopefully change the status quo. Another football player, Michael Sam, who early in this decade, being in 2014, came out as gay while he was playing football for the Missouri Tigers. The New York Times and Outsports.com shared his story with the public, as well as ESPN. The story aired on all three outlets at the same time after the NFL Combine. The story of Michael Sam became huge, and he was a large portion of the coverage for the NFL Draft. Michael Sam was not predicted to be a high draft pick, though. However, he was still receiving more coverage than some first-round draft pick predictions. It appears as if the media was rooting for Michael Sam after coming out. Sam was the only player drafted in the 7th round of the NFL Draft to have ESPN in his home covering him.
We're going to turn now to history in the NFL. Michael Sam, drafted by the St. Louis Rams, becoming the first openly gay player ever drafted. There is the emotional moment when he got the word with his boyfriend. But Sam almost wasn't picked, and he's now using that as motivation. ABC's Mara Schiavocampo is in the social square with his story. Good morning, Mara.
Good morning, George. You know, that announcement is not only making history, it's getting a lot of attention. Take a look at Sam's jersey for sale online. The NFL tells us it's already a top seller, but not everyone is celebrating the news.
It's sports history
sealed with a kiss, and this morning, a little controversy. Former University of Missouri football player Michael Sam celebrating with his boyfriend moments after learning he was drafted by the St. Louis Rams, becoming the first openly gay player in the NFL.
The St. Louis Rams select Michael Sam.
Sam was the 8th to last pick Saturday, taken in the 7th round, ending months of speculation about whether he would even be selected at all. While the defensive end was initially elated, he quickly turned to Monday morning quarterbacking about getting picked so late, writing on the Rams' Twitter account late Saturday, "From last season alone, I should have been in the first 3 rounds."
Michael is really focused on the big picture. Michael's focusing on getting ready to go to St. Louis and to become a Ram.
Many congratulated Sam on the announcement, from President Obama to Sam's fellow athletes.
I think it's a great day for the NFL.
Came to tell the world that I'm an openly proud gay man.
After coming out in February, he recently told Robin he hoped to be an inspiration to other gay athletes.
I think I can be a beacon for those people, a light. They're like, hey, I can be comfortable in my own skin and be like Michael Sam.
But not everyone on the sidelines was cheering about how openly Sam celebrated with his boyfriend. Miami Dolphins defensive back Don Jones tweeting, "Horrible." That post has been deleted. Jones fined and temporarily excused from team activities. But some say it shows Sam will continue facing pushback off the field.
These tweets tell us it's not going to be an easy road for Michael Sam, but I do think he'll be welcomed in St. Louis.
Now, Jones has apologized for his, quote, inappropriate comments, and lots of people have taken to social media about this. The St. Louis Rams Facebook page has been lighting up, thousands of people clicking like to show their enthusiasm for the team's choice, and Sam's own tweet has gotten thousands and thousands of retweets and favorites. Robin, George?
All right, Mara, thank you very much. Mara, thank you very much. And he's the first SEC Defensive Player of the Year not to go in the first round since 2006, but he did have a poor combine. He did do well in the one-on-one workouts, and it doesn't matter when you go, it's where you go, and he's in a great situation right now, and this is going to fuel his desire to prove.
Michael Sam even remained a huge story after the draft during the St. Louis Rams training camp. The media was still there to talk about Sam and how he was doing in the locker room or in the league. There was even a story done about Sam and his showering habits when he was in the locker room. This story received negative backlash and was seen as trying to turn him into something way bigger than it wasn't.
Guys he can relate to. But another Rams defensive player told me that, quote, Sam is respecting our space, and that from his perspective, he seems to think that Michael Sam is waiting to kind of take a shower as not to make his teammates feel uncomfortable, while Langford and linebacker Alec Ogletree told me that they didn't know that specifically and also weren't tracking that. Now, while Langford told me, listen, I have not been in the shower at the same time as Michael Sam, he said that there definitely could be a million reasons as to why that is. He said he could be doing extra work on the practice field, he could be riding his bike, he could be doing extra cardio. But overall, Langford said he seems to be adjusting to the life in the NFL and the speed of the game, adding this quote, "If he doesn't make our team, I'm pretty sure somebody will definitely pick him up on another team. He has shown some flashes." And quick note, the Rams are not making Michael Sam available today as previously planned, and the St. Louis Rams, as all other teams in the NFL, have to get their rosters down to 75 players today by 4 p.m. Eastern, Jay.
All right, that's the deadline. It could happen.
Sam never made it to the final roster for the regular season and was released in August of 2014. His story doesn't stop there, though. The media came to his defense and was supporting Sam after this happened. Sam went on in the same year to win the Arthur Ashe Courage Award at the 2014 ESPY Awards. He was listed as one of the GQ Men of the Year and was a finalist in the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year. The homosexual community was becoming more represented, and the media is making sure that this is the case. As we see again, media is trying to increase the amount of good coverage that homosexual players are receiving. These stepping stones are another good sign that we are moving in the right direction for inclusion and representation of gay players. The last player from the NFL is Wade Davis, who came out in 2012 after retiring from the NFL. He came out as publicly gay and shared his story about what it was like being a closeted player in the NFL. Davis and his story have been featured in outlets such as The Washington Post, CNN, USA Today, BET, and the Bleacher Report. Davis has since joined an advisory board for You Can Play, which is dedicated to fighting homophobia in professional sports. He was later named executive director of the organization. In 2014, the NFL made huge strides in this field by naming Davis as the league's first diversity and inclusion consultant. He works closely with the NFL and their sponsors to help break the barriers between the NFL and the LGBTQ community. By leading initiatives, he consults these issues, and Wade Davis in the NFL, he and Billy Beane share the same position, Beane being in the MLB and Davis being in the NFL. Now, while this media coverage is seen as good for all, there have been some mistakes that have been made by the media. People who are still closeted sometimes do not want to be outed by the media. This leads to controversy in the industry and sometimes to very negative consequences for the athletes. Since this news coverage is still quite new to most media outlets, sometimes they do not know how to handle it. The first example is Dr. V's putter, when Grandland wrote a story about a person, Ann Vanderbilt, who supposedly invented the best putter in the world. It was later told that the inventor of the putter was transgender, and when they found out about this, they killed themselves. While in the media's eyes, this story was a great thing. However, they didn't realize that they had made a decision for a person to come out. It should be noted that the media can't make these decisions for the people in the LGBTQ community. Grantland still ran the story despite all that happened and indirectly took the life of Vanderbilt. This is not the only mistake that the media has made in the past. In the 2016 Olympics, the Daily Beast ran a story. The author of this article used dating apps such as Tinder and Grindr from within the Olympic Village. The main topic of the article was to find gay male athletes competing in the Olympics. The author then disclosed information in the article that could easily identify those athletes. This was a huge problem for them because it was unknown to which of those athletes had come out as gay in the past. This also caused a huge problem for some athletes, as in their home countries, homosexuality was still considered illegal.
Like most publications, the Daily Beast is covering the Olympics, but recently a story written by Nico Hines got the publication into a little bit of trouble. Now, for some random reason, Nico Hines decided it would be a good idea to go on a gay dating app and then see whether or not he could find gay Olympians that are currently in Rio. And then once he found out who they were, he published their identities in a Daily Beast piece. Now, since then, the piece has been edited considerably, but the original headline said, "I got 3 Grindr dates in an hour in the Olympic Village." Now, the reason why this is a disgusting story is because, first of all, he misrepresented who he was, right? He's straight, he's married, apparently he's, not gay at all. But worse than that is that it's no one's responsibility, obligation, or even right to ever out anyone, right? And it's not like all of these athletes are from the United States. These athletes are from all over the world. They could come from countries where there's severe ramifications for being gay. And this guy thinks it's funny to mock these athletes for possibly being gay. Like, why is that even a story, right? That shouldn't even be a story.
This type of media could have potentially ruined the lives of those athletes. This is an entire new beast to tackle when it comes to covering those athletes that are a member of the LGBTQ community. It is obvious that the media wants to cover these stories. However, it is appearing that they are having a difficult time doing it correctly.